There's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Man, this stuff rocks.
Hey, this is Kenny Dubman, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guest do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather. And as always, I bring you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a huge privilege to welcome heavy rock singer-songwriter Kenny Dubman. He will release his new album, Conflicted, out May 17th, and he has released the official music video for Modern Day Jesus, the second single off of his upcoming album. So we'll be talking to Kenny about all this stuff. So Kenny, man, welcome to the podcast. And how you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Not a problem whatsoever. So how excited are you to release this second single, Modern Day Jesus, off this album, man?
It's actually been out for a bit, and I'm super thrilled at the reaction that it's getting. It's been, even really more so than the first one. Excuse me. The first one we did was Old Dog featuring Charlie Starr from Blackberry Smoke. Did a lead on it, and that went over big. But there's something about, like, I think the lyrical content of this song that's really hitting home with people.
You put out many albums, so let's talk about this just a little bit, because you mentioned, you hit on something there that I just thought about. Is it safe to say that bands or musicians don't find their stride till maybe after 10 or 11 album cycles into your career of putting this out? Is that fair to say, man, or do you feel like this is just a Kenny Dubman album and let's just go for it?
I mean, it really depends on the artist. I mean, some artists do 3 albums and they're burnt out creatively, and others just keep going. Some have a great stretch in the beginning, then they go through like a mediocre stretch, and then they find a new vibe like later on. For me personally, my situation is a little bit different, because I was in a band in the 80s called Prophet, and we did 3 records, and then not long after that, like early 90s, I just walked away from the creative side of music entirely for like 20 years.
Wow.
And I started doing my own stuff completely solo, with my first solo record, Reckless Abandon, which came out in 2016. So now I'm about to put out my 3rd record of this particular stretch of life. So I'm a little bit of an anomaly that I took a long time away from it, that I just didn't want to do it.
Would you just burn out, just need to recharge, or just need to focus on other
things? I was excuse me, I was losing my passion for it. I was doing like heavy guitar driven bluesy hard rock, and early 90s is when Pearl Jam and Nirvana came on, so that kind of like turned the scene on its ear, and it was all about grunge in Seattle. And I was like, you know what, man, what am I even doing? I mean, the stuff that I'm writing, nobody really gives a shit about. Plus, I was getting passionate about other things that I really wanted to pursue, so I just did. And I didn't stop playing guitar. I still played in cover bands and wedding bands and acoustic duos. Still played quite a bit, but as far as like writing and putting out music, I didn't care to do it.
Out of all the songs on this upcoming album, what made Modern Day Jesus the second track released off of the album? Was there another song that could have been the second release?
There were a few, but Modern Day Jesus was actually and is my favorite track on Conflicted. But I didn't want to go with it first. I wanted to come out of the gate with a really up-tempo hard rocker like Old Dog. I just figured it was better to put that foot forward, just bust out of the gate angry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I figured like next in line, I could tone it down a little bit and go with Modern Day Jesus.
Were these songs written prior or during the pandemic? And are these all brand new songs?
The songs I picked from a pool of, God, I don't know, probably, 25-ish songs to do these, to record these 12. Mm-hmm. So I just write all the time. So I couldn't even tell you when any particular song on Conflicted was written, but they're all going back like, to, from present day to like 3 years back. And it's just nothing in particular about what I pick. I just look at them all and go, okay, which ones do I really want to, am I most excited about recording? And that's how these 12 ended up. The last one, which is the last track on the record, is what the hell's the name of it? Wool Over Your Eyes. It's just vocal and acoustic, and that one was written when we already had started recording Conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
So I bumped another one and put that one in. So it's just this ever evolving, just stream of creativity that comes out. Luckily, knock on wood.
So these tracks that didn't make this album, though, can we see these on another upcoming album, or maybe just an EP down the road from you?
They're definitely going to come out, because I really like them. Songs that I don't like enough to record, I'll just push off into into the void. And I know that I'm not that crazy about them, so I'm not going to record them. But I got a bunch, man. I got like at least an album and a half worth of stuff that has to come out at some point eventually. Yeah.
That's cool to hear that, because I like to hear people saying that, hey, I've got like 10, 15 songs. I've even got songs like maybe 6 or 7 years down the road that's not even made a light of day, but I've already got it tracked. I'm just like, God, that's awesome. Because
it's a much better, not a problem. It's a much better thing. It's a much better thing to have than not enough material, because shit, what do you do then?
Yeah, exactly. I've interviewed, I think it was Heidi from the Butcher Babies, who told me at one point she had a journal from high school, man, that she was still pulling songs from.
Yeah.
Butcher Babies. I'm like, good God, really? She's like, yeah, we're still using old stuff, man. I was like,
yeah, the thing is, like, after some time goes by, you can look back at and more objectively and say, is this really a good song, or is it really not?
Yeah. Was there a track that you were working on that totally ended up sounding different than it was intended to? Was there one on this track, man, that just kept changing, or maybe did a 360 that you said, oh no, that's it?
No, I can't say that, because like when songs are coming together and then I'll rehearse them with my guys, like prior to going into the studio, you kind of know what they're going to sound like. And even before, I write everything just on an acoustic guitar, but I have that vision of what they're going to sound like as a full band. So nothing really did like a 180. Everything that you hear was how I heard it in my head before we went to the studio.
How's the writing process for you? Does everyone contribute on the lyrics and writing the songs? When do you stop and say, okay, I don't want to go down this road, or do you just let the songs write themselves, if that makes sense?
Well, I write everything. I write all the music and lyrics at home by myself with an acoustic guitar and a notepad. That's the way the songs, and generally I'll have a full arrangement front to back before I even get the guys together to start hashing them out as a full band. But as far as how they come out of my head, it's usually like, I'll have the guitar in my hand and I'll get like a single melody line that's either like the start of a verse, or maybe the chorus will come first. And once that first melody over a chord change happens, that's your basic skeleton, and that's what everything builds off of. And it's really that's the most organic way to write. As a guitar player, like years ago, I come up with a lick, a really cool electric guitar lick, and go, wow, this is going to be a good song. But you're backing into the song from a guitar riff instead of starting with the core and most important elements, which is the verse, the vocal melody, the lyric, or the chorus and the lyrics in the chorus melody. So my writing style now is completely different than it was like, years ago, 20 years ago.
Here's a crazy question. Has there been a song for you that you've been working on that didn't meet your expectations as far as writing it, but ended up being meeting your expectations when it was actually put out for fans to listen to? If that makes sense.
It makes total sense, but if it doesn't meet my expectations when I'm writing it, it just gets pushed aside. Because if I'm not really digging it, there's no chance that I'm ever really going to dig it. So when it's in its infancy, I have to really like it. And some songs I'll start and not finish because I just don't like it enough. And it years ago, like I'd write, you'd want to save everything. You'd be like, this is a song. It just, I need to do something with it. Now, if I'm not that crazy about it, I just push it aside and just, move on to something else.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the growth musically you've seen from yourself working on this album, if anything? Because I know everybody grows from day to day, and if you don't, there's something wrong. But what have you taken away from this album specifically for you?
I don't know if I've taken away anything from it, but what I've noticed is that my ability to arrange and cut, stuff out that shouldn't be in there, I'm much quicker to do it and say, we don't need this. We don't need this riff. Doesn't have to be double. Just coming up with more streamlined arrangements. I think I'm better at that. And I think I've become a better lyric writer and a better at coming up with vocal melodies that all tie together, because really at the end of the day, it's the vocal melody and the lyrics that are, the people are going to be it's going to be most evident to people when they've listened to a song. Everything else is kind of just background to that. So being able to put together a verse that really works, like a little bridge that connects the verse to the chorus, having those parts all link up really well together is the core of songwriting for me. And I think I've gotten a little better at that lately with this record.
You talked about this a little bit earlier, but how big was the band Prophet in your journey to doing what you're doing now? And what did you learn from being in that band as far as growing as a musician, starting out?
I was really young when I first joined the band. I think I was like a senior in high school when I started doing gigs with those guys. And that band was my whole platform for everything that came later.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I was, I guess, the second highest contributing writer in Prophet. The main writer was Scott Metaxas, my bass player in that band. Great, phenomenal songwriter. He could just walk in the room with like an entire song front to back. And that would amaze me when I was that age. I'd be like, holy shit, how do you even do that? And I'm writing like a guitar riff and maybe a bridge, but like walking in with the whole song. So he was a big influence on how to, construct a song from beginning to end. Stylistically, what I do now is worlds apart from the style that Prophet was, which is more like keyboard oriented, like Journey, Styx, Kansas kind of influence. But I mean, I cut my teeth with every aspect of music in that band. So I couldn't possibly overstate how important that band was to what I would ultimately go on to do.
Since the pandemic, do you think it's harder now to have your music discovered since everything's probably oversaturated now?
I find it to be very difficult to get stuff heard. Social media and everything is just loaded with so many bands and so many artists that I'm actually talking to a new management company, a couple of really seasoned veterans that have been around and started a new company, and they're liking what I'm doing, and I like what I hear from them. And I definitely I can't just do it all and get it out in front of people on my own anymore. I need industry veterans to help. So I'm about to do that. I'm feeling a lot better now that I've had that conversation with them than I was, because when you're just on your own, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You do booking whatever shows you can. You're putting it out on your social media. You're trying to grow your following, and you're competing with a gazillion other, bands and artists. It's just insanely saturated.
I'm a podcaster, and it's the same for us. There's so many podcasters out there now, so many. And I've been doing this for 12 years, and it's kind of like, hey, where'd you come from? Get away, get out of here. Yeah.
I hear you. I feel the same way. There's too many bands in it. But you know what? I find it better when I don't dwell on that.
Yeah.
Because when you dwell on too much on what other people are doing, it takes away from the energy that you should be putting into what you're doing.
Yeah, and I've learned that the hard way. I'm don't worry about everybody else, worry about you and focus on your podcast and do what you do, because eventually people are going to come to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, life with social media has become it's like there's constant static going on in the background, and it's almost impossible to concentrate unless you block it out, which I've learned to do. I spend very little time on on social media browsing anymore, because it's literally like an hour can go by and you say to yourself, like, what the fuck did I just do for an hour? I could have been like writing a song or like, cleaning my house, anything that's more valid than what I just did.
But the funny part is you're mesmerized by somebody in the grocery store going live, going, I get this for $4.99 a pound, boy. Look at this pretty steak over here, boy. And you'll sit there and watch it forever, like, wonder what else is he going to buy? And then I'm like you, I'm like, what am I doing?
Because it's addicting and no one is immune to the addiction.
Yeah.
But thank God that I've finally gotten over the hump where I can say that's really no good. That's not a good use of my time. So I try to do as little as possible. The only reason I'm even on social media at all is to promote my music, obviously.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. What's your thoughts on touring though, and getting back out on the road? Do you want to get this out on the road, and what's your thoughts on it?
I absolutely do. And the management people I've been speaking to are going to be very instrumental in that, because they're putting on a lot of shows of like upstart acts and they know how to promote them, and they're actually doing very well. That was actually the reason that I started talking to these guys to begin with. So I'm looking forward to playing in areas where people are psyched about hearing rock music. And, and I follow, going back to the whole social media, so I follow a lot of bands that are based out of your area in the South. And it just seems like there's much more excitement about music there than there is in my area. Like I'm sitting up here and it's just, I feel it's almost like I'm marooned, I need to get where they care about what I'm doing. So yeah, it's probably going to be baby steps at first. I'll go out for like a weekend and maybe a week, and we'll just grow it from there. I don't have to have this giant game plan in place, but I need to start soon, and I plan on it.
Come on down, Kenny. Come on.
I'm going to, man. I'm totally going to.
What do you hope everyone takes away while listening to this new single, your music in general? What do you hope they get from it?
Well, first of all, I hope they like it. And I hope they like it enough to dig in and listen to more of what I got going on. That's really all I can hope to ask. I'm not trying to preach any lessons with my lyrics or anything like that. I'm just like I'm an honest American rock and roller, like staying kind of true to my 70s roots. And I just hope people dig it.
Anything you want to see change in the music industry, possibly for you, that you see that you would wish that would change, maybe?
Well, I mean, like anybody else, I think the whole streaming thing is not good for artists. You spend all this time and money making a record, and you're just expected to pretty much give it away.
Yeah.
And I don't really think that's cool. I'd love to see that change, but it likely won't. That's pretty much my only beef right now. I just hope that people still come out to see, their favorite artists live. And, if you like somebody that you see, share it, turn your friends onto it.
Let me jump back here just for a little bit, man. Who produced this album? Did you produce it in-house, or who actually produced this album?
I work with an engineer co-producer named Steve Diacutis. He's been good friends of mine for years. He has a beautiful studio in his house. It's not like a home studio like you would, see somebody with. Like he's got a giant Neve board and all the outboard gear you could possibly. It's a full-blown studio. So he and I work very well together. He's an old hard rock guitar player like me. So production-wise, we think the same. And he's great for me because sometimes I'll get to a point in a song and be like, this needs something, needs to lift up here. And he's got the brain that just comes up and goes, why don't we do this? And more often than not, I'm like, God damn, it's exactly what we needed here.
But does he push your buttons though? To like say, no, man, you got to do something else different. Come on. You got more in you.
No, because I drive myself so hard that I don't really need that.
Okay.
We got this more like this nice synergy of bouncing, bads back and forth. If anything, I push him hard. I'm like, that fucking snare sound. Come on, dude. I know you can do better than that. And he does. And he just, the overnight it'd be like, I didn't sleep last night. I hate that snare sound, but listen to this. Come in the next day and he'll play it. I'm like, that's it, man. He's a great guy. So one of my very good friends. For the first time we played together was like we were teenagers. I was like 15 and he was 16.
And it always makes an album go better when you got somebody that understands you personally and knows exactly what you're looking for. So you guys can bounce shit off each other and just nail it.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, he's so talented. I mean, you could hear the production on this thing is pretty monstrous, and that has nothing to do with me. Like, I don't turn knobs. I just expect him to get the sounds, and he does.
Kenny breaks knobs. Kenny, don't touch. No.
No, I'm cool. I'm chill. I don't get upset or angry or anything.
What's your thoughts on the loss of Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins?
Mind-blowing and heartbreaking. I mean, the guy was like, I followed them since the first time I saw them was like 97, opening up for the Stones at Giant Stadium in New Jersey. And I don't even know if he was on drums at that point yet. He might not have been, but it's a heartbreaker, man. And just like, what a cool guy. Like I didn't know him personally, but like, you see enough interviews and watch people talk, and you kind of get a gist of like what they're like in their soul. And he just seemed like just a fucking great guy, man. It's just devastating.
And plus too, let's think about this. This is the second band member that Dave Grohl has went through, a death of in two separate bands. So yeah. I hope that Dave bounces back from this, because this is gut wrenching for two bands that he's been through this.
It might take him a while.
Mm-hmm.
It might, but he seems like a pretty solid, resilient guy. But it takes time to mourn, man. This is a big one for him and for everybody in the rock community.
All right, Kenny.
Shocking.
Yeah. I was sitting here and seeing it, and I was like, huh? Wow. I was dumbfounded, man. I couldn't even speak for like 5 minutes because I didn't know, is this a hoax? Which I was like, I'm hoping to God nobody was stupid enough to do a hoax like this.
Yeah, I had heard that he had OD'd and been dead a couple times from heroin in the past.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like it was like flatlined, and then they got him back more than once. So it's I don't think like any doing drugs was anything new to him. It's a sin.
Yeah. I know you've got a lot of music that you still listen to today from time to time, but do you still have a go-to album, or maybe just a song that you have to go back and listen to from time to time that you just cannot kick out, man?
Yeah, I got a lot of it. Old Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here is my favorite record. I still listen to Cry of Love's Brother that came out in 1993. I don't know if you're familiar with Cry of Love, but if you know who Audley Freed is? He's a guitar player, plays with Sheryl Crow now.
Okay.
That was his band. And their first album is just it's a blues rock masterpiece. There's singer Kelly, can't remember his last name, but that guy. Holy shit. So I'll go back and listen to Black Sabbath Sabotage, probably once a month, because that's an absolute staple for me.
Mm-hmm.
Led Zeppelin 4, Black Dog.
Yes. Great.
And there's tons of it. Leonard Skinner, Street Survivors, also one of my favorites.
Yes, sir.
Blackberry Smoke, it's not really that old, but the Whippoorwill from 2012, one of my favorites of all time. So good. And there's tons. Most of the stuff I go revisit is, 70s.
You mentioned Leonard Skinner, and then when I was going to high school, I liked Leonard Skinner, and then everybody just like killed me on Leonard Skinner, because it's like they hadn't opened their ears to any other music except Leonard Skinner, and I'm just going, no, stop. And I was so burnt out because of other people, Yeah. And then like recently, last couple of years, man, I've been slowly getting back into the music, and I felt the love for it again. I'm just like, oh God, that's so good.
Yeah. I saw Leonard Skinner before the crash in 1976.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'm no spring chicken, dude. So I've seen a lot of acts in the 70s. Yeah. So I saw them at the Capitol Theater in New Jersey with Atlanta Rhythm Section and 38 Special under them on the bill. Can you imagine?
How awesome is that? That's like a big festival, and that's all you need to be said right there. That's
Yeah, it's like a Southern rock fest, man.
Yeah.
I saw the Outlaws back in those days, Molly Hatchet, everybody. But that Skinner show, for me to get to see that was just sheer luck that I was able to go to that. Because like the next year, that was it.
And I got to say this, and I'm not knocking anybody, no band whatsoever, but some bands are made for live and some bands are made for album. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think with Skinner, you got it both ways. What you heard on album, you got when you saw them live. I mean, they were exactly the same.
Yeah, and you know why that is? Because Ronnie Van Zant was a taskmaster over those.
Yes, he was.
Like every single note of every solo before they went into studio was mapped out. And I assume he was probably the same way with them live. If like somebody was going astray, be like, you'd hear about it after the show. So he was probably a pretty scary guy to play in a band with.
I'd like to have seen that, man. I would love to saw them live before the tragedy and everything. I would love to have seen that.
It was quite something to say, because that was the first album and tour with Steve Gaines on guitar.
Oh God, see, man, how lucky are you to get to see that, dude? That's so good.
Yep, he was an Okie.
So how can folks stay in touch with you, buy this new album, buy your old stuff, man, when all this drops? How can they do that, Kenny?
Here, the best way to follow me and keep up with what's going on is very simple. Just go to my website, kennydubman.com. As far as the first two records, they're up there. Reckless Abandon, American Songbook. You go to the website, there's a button, just click on it, and it'll take you to all the tracks. You can download them, you can listen to them right there. Modern Day Jesus is up on the website on the homepage. You click it and listen to it, and when the full album comes out, you'll be able to find it through the website. It'll be on all streaming platforms. You'll be able to buy the CD. So website is the way to go.
And before I let you go, would you care to do a promo for my show?
I would love to. Hey, this is Kenny Dubman, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please go out and check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link and the YouTube link. Go subscribe to the YouTube link because we need subscribers, and plus we got a lot of cool stuff coming up for you guys and gals out there. Also, check out Kenny Dubman's new single, Modern Day Jesus, and his upcoming album. Let me find it here and I'll edit all this shit out. Conflicted. Check out Conflicted when it comes out May 17th. And pick all this other stuff up as well. You won't be disappointed, folks. And Kenny, thank you so much. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck, man.
My pleasure, man. And let's do this again.
You got it, my friend.
It was really a pleasure talking to you.
You too, man.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.